Okay, let's unpack this. We're doing a deep dive today into some really interesting source material you shared.
Yeah, it's pretty specific stuff.
Right. Focusing on, well, a niche bit of RC history,
Yeah.
how wheel mounting systems evolved on Tamiya buggies.
Exactly. We're zooming in on how Tamiya connected wheels to axles, specifically looking at the mid-'80s HotShot family.
And comparing that to their earlier designs.
Yeah, precisely. It seems like a small detail, but it tells quite a story about design choices back then.
Okay, so our mission here is to pull out the key insights from this material, understand this little slice of RC engineering.
And what it tells us about why engineers make certain choices.
Let's jump right in then. The star, I guess, is the Tamiya HotShot. Came out in 1985.
That's the one. Hugely important kit, Tamiya's very first 4WD buggy.
So what was the deal with its wheel mount? What made it unique?
Well, the thing that jumps out immediately is that Tamiya didn't just reuse something they already had.
Oh.
For the HotShot, and its relatives too. The Boomerang, Bigwig, Super HotShot, they developed something totally new, proprietary.
What did it look like?
People usually call it a triangular drive with 3 pins.
Triangular? Okay, that's definitely not the standard 12-millimeter hex you see everywhere today.
No, not at all. They used a specific plastic adapter piece. It slid onto the axle shaft.
Right.
And it had this, triangular-ish shape with grooves or pins. That specific shape locked directly into a matching recess molded right inside the wheel.
So the wheel itself had to be custom molded just to fit this one adapter.
Exactly right. You couldn't just, slap any old wheel on there. And the sources suggest this wasn't accidental. This multi-point connection, it was probably an engineering choice.
For strength.
Likely, yeah. To give a more robust, secure connection. Remember, this was their first 4WD buggy. It needed to handle more torque, more stress than the older 2WD designs.
Okay, that makes sense. A system optimized specifically for the new 4WD demands.
That seems to be the idea.
But I bet that really limited your wheel choices if you owned one back in the day.
Oh, absolutely. You were pretty much stuck with Tamiya's wheels made just for that HotShot platform.
And that's where the aftermarket comes in, right?
You got it. People wanted more options, different tires, different looks. So companies started making aluminum adapters.
To convert it.
Yeah, adapters that took that unique HotShot triangular drive and converted it to the much more common 12-millimeter hex drive.
The fact that those adapters were popular really tells you something.
It really does. It highlights how much hobbyists, even back then, valued having choices and some standardization.
Okay, so that's the HotShot system, purpose-built for 4WD. But if we rewind just a few years before that, Tamiya's approach sounds like it was, all over the place.
Yeah, experimental is a good word. It was definitely a period with lots of different designs floating around.
Like on the early SRB chassis. The Rough Rider Sand Scorcher?
Exactly. Those are iconic. They were famous for their scale realism, and their wheel mounting, especially at the rear, really reflected that.
What did they use? Not the triangular thing, obviously.
Totally different. They had this fascinating kind of intricate cam lock mechanism.
Cam lock?
Yeah, the
Right.
rear wheels were multi-piece designs, and you use these little sort of cam-shaped levers to physically clamp the wheel halves together onto a splined hub on the axle.
Wow, that sounds complex.
It was almost like part of the scale model aspect itself, very mechanical. The front wheels, though, being non-driven, were way simpler, usually just riding on bearings held on by a nut.
Okay, so complex where needed for drive, simple where it wasn't. What about other 2WDs from around then? Maybe simpler kits like the Holiday Buggy or the Hornet.
Yeah, those tended towards simpler methods, definitely simpler than the SRB camlocks, and also different from the later HotShot triangle.
Oh, so?
Some sources mention things like basic keyed shafts or pin drives on the axle itself, sometimes a shared adapter type across a few models between, say, 79 and 85. Less elaborate, really.
Just needed for basic 2WD power delivery.
Pretty much. And think about the Hornet and Grasshopper came out just before the HotShot. Their rear wheels were different again.
How? Still no hex.
Right. They had this sort of unique, non-hexagonal keyed pattern molded right into the plastic hub of the wheel.
Ah.
And that engaged with a matching shape on the axle end. Again, a pretty simple, proprietary-ish system tailored for those specific entry-level buggies.
And I bet you see aftermarket hex adapters for those too.
You do, for exactly the same reason as the HotShot people wanting wheel compatibility.
Okay, so let's pull this together. You got the super detailed SRB cam locks,
Yeah.
these various simpler keyed or pin systems on other 2WDs, and then the HotShot arrives with its unique triangular drive.
Yeah.
What's the main takeaway when you compare the HotShot to what came before?
Well, I think the HotShot's triangular drive really stands out as Tamiya creating a specific solution for a new challenge.
The challenge being reliable 4WD power delivery.
Exactly. It wasn't just tweaking the old 2WD methods, and it certainly wasn't borrowing from the scale-focused SRB system. This looks like Tamiya engineering a bespoke interface, just for their first 4WD platform.
Prioritizing the functional performance for that new design.
Right, even if it meant breaking compatibility with all their, previous wheel types, which were already quite diverse.
It really paints a picture of that era, doesn't it? Lots of active experimentation before the industry kind of settled down later with standards like the 12mm hex.
Definitely. Tamiya was clearly still figuring things out, designing unique solutions model by model, or maybe platform by platform.
And the market reaction, like you said, with all those adapters.
Yeah, it shows that classic tension, doesn't it, between a manufacturer optimizing a part for a specific model's performance and the end user, you wanting flexibility, compatibility options.
So wrapping this up, what does it all really signify? This whole journey through Tamiya's wheel mounts from those intricate SRB cam locks, the simpler keyed hubs, right up to the HotShot's very specific triangular drive.
It clearly marks a period of real engineering exploration. This was before things like the 12mm hex became, well, almost universal.
And it shows Tamiya creating a very targeted solution for their first big 4WD buggy. Performance first for that new platform.
Yeah, even if it caused headaches for people wanting different wheels and led to that whole aftermarket adapter scene.
It makes you think, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Here's something maybe for you listening to consider. In any kind of design project, RC cars, or, anything else, what's the real trade-off? When do you design that highly specific, maybe perfectly optimized part for just one job?
Versus using something more common, more standard, more compatible.
Exactly. And how does that choice ripple outwards, affecting not just the performance it was designed for, but also things like user customization, maybe even how long that particular design stays relevant or usable?
Yeah, that balance between bespoke optimization and broader compatibility. It's a fundamental design question, really.